Hello folks, I'm Ken Harris. We're going to do a little seascape today, and what is different about it is, I guess it's not really different with many seascapes, but we're going to do some coconut palms, and coconut palms give lots of people a lot of trouble, and I'll try and explain that to you as easily as possible for you to follow. But we need to start with, incidentally, the tools I'm using. The main painting brush about 1.5 centimetres wide, a little detail brush, a fan brush, and a very small knife. Now, I'm going to run the sky in with a little bit of phthalo blue and white, and the board itself has got a little bit of medium on it to make it easier for the paint to run. Totally up to you as to whether you put medium on the board or not. Some people find it a lot easier. The big advantage of having medium on the board is that when the painting is drying, it doesn't tend to... there are parts of any board or any piece of canvas that are more porous than others. And the oil from the paint that you're actually painting on, that I'm painting on now, has a tendency to absorb easier into that porous area. Now, if you put a little bit of medium over the board, it stops a lot of that porous effect on the board. That's one huge advantage with it. I'm just painting in the horizon line here and coming forward a little bit because I want to put a little bit of green in here, and I don't have it on the palette. This particular green is well, it's a viridian green, but you can use sapphire green. You can use sapphire blue as well. That's an excellent colour. But when you use this green, use it in great moderation because it will just literally take over your painting for you. I haven't finished the sky, of course, at this stage. But I want to run that little bit of green in here. And we'll probably come back to that water and make it a wee bit darker in places, but just for the time being we'll run that green in there, and we'll come back to the water and run a little bit of really deep colour in here and there. And the lower sky, I'm going to run a little bit of pink into the lower sky. So I'm going to wash that brush and be very careful to squeeze out all the turpentine from your brush when you wash it. I'm going to put that little bit of green up the top of the palette, and I'm going to take a little bit more of that white and just a speck of red and just a speck of orange. Now this is more an apricot than a pink, but that's excellent. People often say to me, how do I pick up that paint so cleanly on the palette? Well, it's only because the knife is very, very sharp, and it really grabs the paint for me. That's all it is. A lot of people seem to think I have some kind of a magic knife to do that, but it's not so. Now this horizon line is just above this little bit of land mass we've got here. We just creep down to that, although the little bit of land does come up above the horizon line just in this area here. Now I'm going to run this little bit of pink up into the sky here as well, and just blend that blue away a little bit more, soften it up a little bit. Now remember, because we're going to run foliage up into the sky here, the coconut trees, just be very careful that you don't put the paint on thick. You mustn't have that paint on thick in the area where you're going to put the foliage for the trees. It will just give you a lot of trouble. I'm going to just darken the top of this a little bit as well. As it is in nature, it's darkened. It's very dark immediately above you and much lighter down towards the horizon line, so we'll just darken that a bit and run it away. That's much better. Now I'm going to wash this brush again, and we'll run this little bit of sand in here. Now I'm going to use a little yellow ochre initially, but as you come forward here to where it's closer to you, I'm just going to use a little white in there and make it nice and pale just along there. And I'm sloping it down gently to the water. Just a gentle slope down to the water there. And as we run away into the distance here, I'm going to go towards a bluey grey in the distance here. We'll just fuse them together and run this little bit of land out into the water, but it's just below the horizon line level, and run it back and fuse it together with the yellow ochre. Now we need to bring that blue along underneath it there. We need to bring a little bit of that phthalo blue along underneath this land mass so that you can see where the land is. That's defining it much better. There. However, you don't want too clear a separation between the two, because the further it is away, the less distinct that emerging area is. So we just keep it a little bit fused, but enough to be able to see it. That's the main thing. This little bit of blue here was just softening him up a tiny bit there too. Now, in the background here, I want to run some coconut trees and some the background behind the trees themselves. So I'm going to take a little bit of this olive green that I have here, and I'm going to run some foliage into the background like so. And we can even bring it down more or less towards the water to break the line between the foreground and the background a little bit. Now when you get down to the bottom of these trees, you need to darken them. Just darken them right up in here. And just fuse it away gently, gently, gently within it like so. You can come back with a fan brush and flick away the protruding bits and just gently, gently pull a little bit of shadow down towards the water. It's surprising, you see lots of travelogue photos of the palm trees and the vegetation in these travel shops. The palm trees and the vegetation being all sort of very squeaky clean, and the beach being spotless, etc. And well, that in many cases that is not so. There's a huge amount of rubbish and debris on the beaches that, firstly, you can get a lot of rubbish and debris coming from the actual bushes and trees, etc. at the back, but there's also a lot of debris in the form of driftwood and trunks and rubbish, etc. that that just simply floats in onto the beaches. And I've seen beaches where it's really difficult because of, in the tropics, that it's difficult to actually walk on the beach. There is so much vegetation, dead vegetation, on the beach. Very hard to walk along. You've really got to watch every step you take, or you'll trip over a palm frond or a lump of wood or whatever. And so when you see it sort of rough and scruffy like this, in actual fact it's probably closer to reality than what the travel log things would have you believe. But I've always said many times, the rougher you get a painting, the better it looks. Run a little bit of branch work up here through this, like so. And often the branch work and bits and pieces sticking up like this could be very difficult to walk through. Don't forget to look me up on your computer, Ken Harris Art School. Come along to one of the workshops in your city, Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, and you'd have they're 2 days, 2-day workshops, and you'd have a wonderful experience, and you walk away with several completed paintings, and you'd have a wonderful time. Now, I'm going to just pull this out into the water a tiny bit. Here, because you will get also rubbish, etc. And in many cases, in these tropical areas, they have volcanic beaches. They don't have nice white sand like we have in Australia. Okay, now we're going to go to a break in a few minutes. In fact, it might be an idea if we go to a break now, and then we'll come back and run the actual coconut trees in themselves. So I'll see you after the break, and we'll get into those coconut trees. Thank you.